All right, so we're diving into Agnes Callard's Open Socrates.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that really stood out to me was this idea, this argument she makes, that we should be living our lives philosophically.
Yeah, and not just studying it, just in the abstract.
Right.
But really like taking those ideas and actually living them out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about sort of like constantly examining your values and beliefs, almost like a constant self-audit of your thinking, right?
Yeah, and it's so interesting how she brings in Tolstoy to kind of set the stage. And talking about that tension between kind of like despair, when you're confronted with these big questions about life.
Yeah.
But then also the sense of like inauthenticity if you just kind of ignore them.
Yeah, I think that resonates with a lot of people. And that really ties into, I think, what she calls these untimely questions, which is feels like a really core concept in the book.
Absolutely. These are the big questions. How to live, what's good, what's just. But we need these answers, right?
Yeah.
Before we're even ready to really formulate the questions.
So we end up kind of like falling back on like these default answers.
Yeah.
But where did those even come from?
Yeah, and Callard argues that they come from often unreliable sources. So think about our bodies, the immediate urges we have, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain.
Right.
But also our social groups, right? The expectations that are put on us that kind of pressure us to conform.
It's almost like we're on autopilot.
Yeah.
We're following this like pre-programmed route without ever stopping to ask, like, is this even the right destination?
Yeah.
And she uses this great analogy to illustrate this, right?
Yeah.
The one about walking to the supermarket.
Exactly. So imagine you're walking to the supermarket, but you're walking based on an old memory of where it's located. Well, you could be headed in the completely wrong direction.
Right.
And these untimely questions work the same way. We're using these outdated answers to these really profound questions, and it can lead us down paths that we haven't really consciously chosen.
That really hits home for me. I think I've definitely felt stuck in certain patterns of behavior that I realized like, oh, it's driven by all of these unexamined assumptions that I haven't really interrogated.
Absolutely. And these assumptions, these untimely answers, they can lead to all sorts of conflicts.
Yeah.
Both within ourselves, but also with other people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, the example that comes to mind is the one that she uses about the Trojan War.
Precisely, yeah. So Callard uses the Trojan War to really highlight how these conflicts can be rooted in these abstract concepts like justice, right?
Yeah.
Rather than purely objective facts. The Greeks and the Trojans, they weren't fighting over, a piece of land necessarily. They were fighting over these interpretations. They were fighting over these deeply held beliefs.
And that connects to another really key concept that she brings up, which is these load-bearing beliefs.
Yeah.
These beliefs that are so central to our identity and worldview that we resist questioning them even when we're faced with, contradictory evidence.
Yeah. Imagine like a house, built on a really shaky foundation. That's what these load-bearing beliefs can be like. They're propping up our whole understanding of the world. And so it's really terrifying to even consider that they might be flawed.
Yeah. And you gave this great example, earlier about the juror.
Yes.
Versus like the defendant's mother.
Yeah. So they're presented with the same evidence, right?
Right.
But the mother's belief in her child's innocence, that's a load-bearing, emotionally so much harder for her to be truly impartial.
Yeah.
Because so much is riding on that belief.
It's not just about logic.
Yeah.
It's not just about evidence. It's about the emotional weight that we attach to these beliefs.
Absolutely. And that weight, that can lead to all sorts of problems. As Callard points out, I mean, these unexamined load-bearing beliefs, they leave us vulnerable to manipulation. They leave us vulnerable to confusion,
right?
To inner turmoil. They can prevent us from really seeing the world clearly and from making choices that really align with our true values.
So how do we even begin to address these untimely questions and these really powerful but but often flawed answers that we've kind of adopted.
Yeah. Well, Callard argues that these default answers, they often come in the form of what she calls savage commands,
Okay.
and they're issuing from our bodies and our social groups.
We've touched on this a little bit, but let's unpack that term a little bit more. What makes these commands like savage?
It's the way they present themselves. It's
Yeah.
like as these clear, definitive answers to the question, "What should I do?" And they're often very urgent and very difficult to resist.
Right.
Our bodies, crave that instant gratification.
Yeah.
Our social groups, they offer these ready-made answers, based on traditions and expectations.
It's the allure of the immediate pleasure, the comfort of fitting in,
Yeah,
the fear of standing out.
absolutely. And this is where Socrates enters the picture.
Okay.
So he argued that these savage commands, they often distort our perception of what is truly good.
Okay, so how do we escape that distortion?
He believed it was through really rigorous self-examination. So it wasn't about just kind of like giving in to our desires or blindly following social norms.
Right.
He was challenging us to question, to investigate, to seek a deeper understanding of what's truly good.
Yeah.
And just
And that process of inquiry is not always like a comfortable thing, is it?
no, not at all. It can be really, really unsettling.
Yeah.
To question the very foundations of our beliefs and our actions. But for Socrates, that discomfort, that was a necessary part of the philosophical journey.
It's the gadfly, right?
It's the gadfly at work.
So you mentioned that Socrates wasn't just about like giving into our desires or blindly following these social norms. So where did he think that we should look for the answers?
That's a great question. And it leads us to one of the most fascinating aspects of Socrates' philosophy, I think. He didn't claim to have all the answers.
Right.
In fact, he often emphasized his own ignorance. But what he was a master at asking the right questions,
Right.
at guiding others towards a deeper understanding through dialogue
Okay.
and through critical thinking.
So it's not about receiving a set of like prepackaged answers.
Yeah.
It's about engaging in this process of discovery.
Exactly. So Socrates, he was less interested in providing solutions and more interested in helping people give birth to their own understanding.
Okay.
And he saw himself as a midwife,
Oh, yeah.
guiding people through this often, very messy, challenging process of intellectual birth.
That's such a compelling image, the philosopher as a midwife.
Yeah.
It really challenges this kind of traditional view of the philosopher as like standing on this pedestal and like delivering pronouncements from on high.
Absolutely.
Right.
And this ties into another really crucial aspect of Socratic philosophy, which is this importance of dialogue and interaction.
Okay.
So Socrates believed that true understanding emerged from this back and forth of conversation, right? From the clash of different perspectives.
So it's not a solitary pursuit then?
Absolutely not. Socrates saw philosophy as a fundamentally social endeavor. He believed that we learn and grow best when we engage with others, when we challenge each other's assumptions, and we work together to try to uncover deeper truths.
And that brings us back to this idea of living a philosophical life.
Yeah.
It's not just about reading books or having these deep thoughts in isolation.
Yeah.
Right? It's about engaging in this constant dialogue with ourselves.
Yes.
With others,
Yeah.
with the world around us.
Exactly. And that dialogue, that willingness to question and to explore, that's what allows us to start chipping away at these savage commands.
Right.
To gain a clearer understanding of what's truly good and just. To move beyond these default answers.
Okay.
And start crafting a life that's more aligned with our own examined values and beliefs.
So it's about taking ownership of those untimely questions rather than just accepting the answers that have been handed to us.
Yes.
It's about becoming like active participants in shaping our own lives, both intellectually and ethically, right?
Yeah, that's a fantastic way to put it. Yeah, it's about embracing that ongoing process of self-discovery and growth and recognizing that it's often uncomfortable and messy and challenging.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly rewarding.
Right.
And ultimately liberating. And that's where this image of Socrates as both gadfly and midwife, it becomes so powerful.
Yeah, it's an interesting paradox, isn't it? Like, how can he be both, the stinging critic who exposes our ignorance, but then also this gentle guide who helps us kind of give birth to knowledge?
Yeah, it's like two sides of the same coin. The gadfly, it stings us into awareness,
Right.
jolts us out of complacency. But once we're awake, then we need the midwife to help us, navigate this difficult process of bringing forth something new.
Right. So it's not just about like tearing down those load-bearing beliefs. It's also about helping us like build something better in their place.
Precisely. And Callard highlights this duality,
Mhm.
she brings in these contrasting examples from Plato's dialogues, where we see Socrates on the one hand, relentlessly questioning, dismantling faulty arguments, but then also, patiently guiding his conversation partners towards these deeper insights.
I'm thinking of the story that she shares about Augustine's mother, Monica, who goes to a bishop seeking guidance.
Yeah.
And the bishop basically says, like, Augustine's too far gone.
Mm.
Like he's too like infected with heresy to learn anything.
Yeah, and it's
Like that feeling of being intellectually shut down,
right.
right? Like dismissed before you even have a chance to like engage in a genuine exchange of ideas.
Exactly. And that's the opposite of the Socratic spirit, right?
Mhm.
Socrates, he believed in this transformative power of dialogue, of
Right.
genuinely wrestling with opposing viewpoints.
It makes me think about how often we shy away from those uncomfortable conversations,
Yeah.
right? Those moments where our deeply held beliefs are challenged.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's where the savage commands can really take hold.
Yeah.
When we're afraid to question, to explore, we become more susceptible to those easy answers, right? To
Right.
those comforting narratives, even if they're leading us astray.
So how do we cultivate that Socratic spirit, that open inquiry, both within ourselves and then also in our interactions with others?
Yeah, Callard, she emphasizes a really crucial point here, which is that thinking, it isn't just this solely individual activity, right? It's a social process.
Right.
It's fueled by dialogue, by this back and forth of challenge and refutation.
I love that anecdote that she shares about the playwright Heinrich von Kleist,
Yeah.
who would explain these complex math problems to his sister.
Yeah.
And he found that in articulating the problem to someone else, even someone who wasn't like a math expert, that he gained a deeper understanding of it himself.
Isn't that fascinating? It really challenges this common misconception of, the solitary genius.
Right.
Right? Toiling away in isolation.
Yeah.
Socrates, he understood this intuitively. He wasn't just this, skilled debater trying to win arguments.
Right.
He genuinely sought truth through this collaborative exploration.
Right.
Recognizing that our individual understanding, it's enriched and deepened through engagement with others.
So it's not about like defeating an opponent.
Right.
Right. It's about embarking on this shared journey of discovery,
Exactly.
even if it leads to questioning, some of our own cherished belief.
Precisely. And this is where Callard makes another really important distinction, I think, between questions and problems. So problems, they have solutions,
Right.
Neat and tidy answers.
Yeah.
But questions, they invite this deeper, more nuanced understanding.
Okay.
And that's really the heart of the Socratic approach.
It's not about finding the quick fix.
Yeah.
Right. It's about embracing the journey of exploration, recognizing that the process itself can lead to these really profound insights.
Think about those aha moments, right? Those flashes of understanding that seem to come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They're often the result of genuine inquiry, of
Yeah.
wrestling with these difficult questions,
Right.
rather than just passively receiving information.
It makes me think about how often we approach learning as this process of consuming information.
Yeah.
Right. Rather than actively engaging with ideas.
Yeah, and that passive approach, they can leave us intellectually stagnant.
Right.
It's like, expecting to become a marathon runner by just reading books about running.
Right.
You have to actually get out there and run.
Right.
Push yourself, experience the discomfort and the exhilaration of the process.
So how do we apply this to our own lives, to our own attempts to cultivate a more philosophical way of being in the world?
Yeah, Khaled, she invites us to consider this really powerful question. What is the most pressing, untimely question in your own life right now? What would it mean to truly examine that question with open-mindedness, with a genuine commitment to pursuing truth?
It's a question that demands honesty and courage, doesn't it?
It does.
Like it's a call to look beyond those easy answers,
Yeah.
those comforting narratives, and to confront those really fundamental questions that often get swept under the rug.
And it's not just about intellectual honesty, right? It's also about recognizing the role of relationships in this journey of philosophical exploration. Socrates, for all his emphasis on reason and argumentation, he deeply valued his connections with others.
It's that sense of shared inquiry, right? That mutual respect and trust that allows us to truly challenge each other's assumptions
Absolutely.
and push each other towards deeper understanding.
And that brings us to, I think, one of the most profound, perhaps unexpected themes in Callard's book, which is this relationship between philosophy and death.
That seems like a heavy topic to bring up, especially in the context of living a more fulfilling life.
Right.
But I sense a connection here.
Yeah. So Callard, she argues that philosophy, in a sense, is a preparation for death.
Okay.
Not in a morbid or fatalistic way.
Right.
But rather in the sense that it helps us confront our own finitude, our own limitations, and to grapple with the meaning of our existence in the face of inevitable mortality.
It reminds me of that line from Montaigne.
Yeah.
To philosophize is to learn how to die, but it's not about obsessing over death or living in fear of it, right?
Yeah.
It's about using that awareness of our mortality as a catalyst for living more intentionally.
Yes.
Like more authentically.
Absolutely.
In the present moment.
And Callard contrasts Socrates' calm acceptance of his own death with this agonizing struggle that's depicted in Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich.
Right.
It's like these two very different ways of confronting this ultimate untimely question.
It's fascinating how she explores those seemingly contradictory responses to death.
Yeah.
Right? On the one hand, you have Socrates kind of embracing his fate with this composure.
Yeah.
And this kind of philosophical detachment, right?
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you have Ivan Ilyich, who is just like racked by fear and regret and this profound sense of unfulfilled potential.
And perhaps that's the point. There's no single right way to approach death.
Right.
But both examples really highlight this importance of examining our lives.
Right.
Of asking those difficult questions, of seeking meaning and purpose.
It's like that awareness of our mortality can jolt us awake, right?
Yeah,
it can make us realize that we don't have an infinite amount of time to waste on things that don't truly matter.
Yeah. And that realization, while it can be, potentially unsettling, it can also be incredibly liberating, right? It can fuel a renewed commitment to living a life of purpose, to pursuing those untimely questions with greater urgency and a deeper appreciation for the preciousness of time.
It makes me think about those moments of loss and grief.
Yeah.
Right? Those times when we're forced to confront our own mortality, either through personal experience or through the passing of loved ones.
Yeah.
Those moments can be incredibly painful, but they can also be like these profound opportunities for growth and self-reflection.
Absolutely. And Callard doesn't shy away from the rawness of those experiences. She shares her own personal story of losing a philosopher friend.
Right.
And how that loss challenged her own philosophical understanding of death.
It's like those moments of profound grief, those encounters with the fragility of life.
Yeah.
They can crack open our philosophical frameworks.
Right.
They can force us to confront the limits of our understanding and to reevaluate what truly matters.
And that's where the idea of philosophical friendship becomes so crucial. So Socrates, despite his, claims of following the argument wherever it leads, he valued his relationships deeply.
Right.
He recognized that true philosophical inquiry, it thrives on connection, on this willingness to engage in open and honest dialogue with others, especially in the face of life's most challenging experiences.
It's like that shared commitment to seeking truth.
Yeah.
Even when it's painful, even when it's unsettling, it creates this unique kind of bond.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's in those moments of genuine intellectual exchange, those moments of shared vulnerability and inquiry that we catch glimpses of what it means to live a truly philosophical life, a life that embraces both the joys and the sorrows of existence.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And it's interesting, Callard connects this, to love too.
Oh, okay.
And she really dives into, how Socrates views love, and he had, pretty unconventional views about it.
Yeah.
That love isn't, static admiration or blind acceptance.
So not about finding someone who like completes you or loves you just as you are.
Right, exactly. Like Socrates, he saw love as this really dynamic process
Okay.
that's fueled by this shared pursuit of knowledge and growth.
So it's about like challenging each other to grow,
Yeah.
to become better versions of yourselves even.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about challenging each other, it's about embracing the messiness of philosophical inquiry, the discomfort, challenging our assumption,
Okay.
even in our most intimate relationships.
And she even points out, romantic relationships in particular, like they're just riddled with these untimely questions,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
We're grappling with commitment, with monogamy, with the purpose of having children, like all of these things.
Yeah.
And we're navigating this incredibly complex terrain without a reliable map.
And Coward suggests, that the Socratic approach, this commitment to open and honest inquiry with our loved ones could be a way to navigate those really, tricky waters.
It's about turning those potential, relationship ending arguments into opportunities for growth, for deeper understanding.
Right.
It's not an easy feat,
No,
but definitely worth striving for, I think.
absolutely. Yeah. And it all circles back, to this core idea of living a philosophical life. It's not about possessing all the answers. It's about embracing the journey.
Right.
This journey of continuous self-examination, of challenging our beliefs, of engaging in this authentic inquiry with others.
So what does this all mean for us, for our own attempts to live more philosophically? Where do we even begin?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
And Callard, she leaves us with this really powerful question. What is the most pressing, untimely question in your own life right now? And what would it mean to truly examine it with open-mindedness, with a genuine commitment to pursuing truth, both individually and in your relationships?
Wow, that's a question to sit with for a while.
Yeah, it is.
It's a real call to action, like an invitation to step outside of our comfort zones and embrace that challenge of living a more examined life.
And that's the beauty of a deep dive like this, I think. It's not just about, gaining knowledge. It's about sparking a fire within us, igniting that desire to live more intentionally,
Right.
live more authentically.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this philosophical adventure.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep those minds open and those questions flowing.